And we're back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Rodrigo with Real City Ambassadors. I have butterflies in my stomach. I already told her before we went live. I am really happy. I'm excited. I've been working with this individual back and forth throughout I don't know, maybe 5 years. You know, she is a proud Bay Area native, a UC Berkeley Cal. She's proud to say it, alum. She's been part of the radio industry for over a decade. I've been following her probably for over a decade. She's part of the Sana G morning show. You know, catch her on Mondays, Fridays. I do, giving you traffic report and more, supporting, empowering the community on a day-to-day. You know, she doesn't stop on Saturdays, 8 a.m. Find her on KMEL, in the streets, on the air. She's a trailblazer, an entrepreneur, I think a fairy godmother to many. And so I give you all Lady Ray.
I feel like some like glitter or whatever coming. Fairy godmother. That's a new one to add to the resume. Thank you, Rodrigo. I appreciate that.
I know. I wish this had a filter, right? Like one of those filters with the little glitters on Instagram.
Let's go ahead and make that a real thing, man. Rodrigo, hola, what's up? Thank you so much for having me. Like that intro right there, like I might need to have you on my team to give me intros, because that was beautiful right there. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, it's really my pleasure. We've a lot of the time we've been talking on the phone, we've been doing via email communicating, but now we get to do this, and it's so dope. I always want to start with the upbringings, because it helps paint a story of like who you are. You know? Well, first of all, I only know you as Lady Ray.
Yeah.
Is that your fish? Is that your
No. So my name is Raina, and that's where the Ray comes from. And it was crazy because back in 2003, when I kicked off my radio, I shouldn't say kicked off, because I was already doing college radio starting in about 2000. But in 2003 is when I began interning at KMEL. And I was like, man, I really want to be on air. But, back then it was like, you couldn't just go on with your name. Like you had to have like a cool radio name and, just be like this other, voice. Right. And so I was like racking my brain, like, what do I, come up with? And so my then boyfriend, who's now my husband, was like, you always like you're really, proper, and you're very like, what's the word? Like he basically was like, you're a lady, like you're always, very complimentary, and you're just proper all the time. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I like that. So I ran with it, and I started doing all this like, imaging and like all this branding and stuff to go with it, and it really just stuck. And so it's and what's funny is like you said, like people don't know me outside of Lady Ray, and they don't know how to like call me from afar. And it'll be funny, I'll be walking and I'll just hear Lady, and I'm like, just call me Ray. It's good. Just Ray is good. It's fine. I'm not one of those people that's like scared of their real name. I mean, it's funny because you think about people like Ludacris, who got his start in radio. And
that's right.
He used to go by Chris Lova, and then transitioned to Ludacris, and then he became the actor Chris Bridges. So it's pretty interesting how like the industry works, and like how you come up with a name and an image. And one person who's really like come out of that is like The Rock. You look at who's from the Bay Area. Got to shout out our
Bay Area. I didn't know that. Okay.
He used to play football in Hayward, went to high school here, and, became The Rock, right? Became this other persona. And then now it's like he's Dwayne Johnson, and he's slowly, coming away from that. But it's pretty interesting how you can build this whole persona and brand, right? And
but before you were Lady Ray, though, I want to take it back a little bit. Who, I want to like a little bit about your roots, because being in front of a mic is not new to you, from what I just learned. So can you tell us a little bit about, who, as a family person, your background? What was that like growing up?
Yeah, so I born in the peninsula. I'm kind of one of those kids that's just from all over the Bay Area. Like I've lived in all different places and gone to school in different places. And I'm Black and Filipino. Um so I come from a very colorful family, which is awesome, and I'm super thankful to have that because not everyone has that access to multicultural lifestyle in their household, right? But yeah, so I'm from the Bay Area, is what I like to say. I grew up primarily in San Francisco, so I rep SF to the fullest,
Mm-hmm.
and just rep the city to the fullest. But the Bay Area in general has been my home, and
So if I were to
I
look on a map here in San Francisco,
yeah.
what areas of San Francisco did you grow up
First,
on?
I'm gonna have to give me a magnifying glass because I'm like, can we zoom in?
Let's zoom in.
So I actually spent a lot of time in Glen Park,
Glen
and
Park,
Mission.
right here.
Yep, right there. So you kind of see how close Glen Park and the Mission is, and Excelsior, of course.
Mm,
Um, a little bit of time in the Bayview area, but in
okay.
terms of like going to school, I was in Glen Park and then in the Mission. And then my family, when they came from the Philippines, they already had some family here that was in Half Moon Bay, so I spent a lot of time in Half
Oh,
Moon Bay and Pacifica. So yeah, the fog and fishing and the ocean are definitely a big part of my life as well. um, I don't know if you
tell
can,
me about your dad. You had told me that
yeah,
he was traveling all over the Bay. Why?
he was actually traveling all over the world. So my
Oh,
dad, I come from a musical family, and I always joke around because I like to call my dad and my uncles the Jackson Five that has like a whole other story, right? Because they're actually pretty well known in San Francisco throughout the 70s. They really kicked off street performing.
what was the
And
name of the group or band?
so they were known as the Edwards Generation. They've actually been sampled by a few hip hop artists that are out right now. And so they would go and my grandma would knit these beanies. And so all these kids started wearing beanies in the city. And like they would go out there and they needed them because they were performing in the cold, essentially. And they would do everything from singing to dancing. My grandfather was actually a street performer all the way until before he passed away. And so you would find him in Fisherman's Wharf playing his guitar out there, and people would come to see him. And actually, my there they are. Yep,
Was
the
this
Edwards.
it?
Yeah, and so my
Wow.
my uncles and my dad, they had all these record labels trying to sign them, but they never wanted to sign because it was nothing. There weren't any offers that were coming to them that didn't require them to sign their life away, essentially.
Of
And
course.
so they did it on their own. So they started making their own albums, selling them on the streets, and you see they're all wearing the beanies there. And so
Yeah,
my
yeah. Wait, where's your dad?
my dad in this picture is right there, and he's playing the guitar.
This
Uh,
one
yep,
or this?
he's right there in the front. And then so
Ah,
this picture that you have here actually has, and I believe that's her in the back, my aunt. And so she sings too, but it was primarily my grandfather and my uncles and my dad. And so what happened was is they were street performing, they were doing that for years, and then they started touring worldwide.
yeah.
And so before the age of 1, I had been to Canada, Europe, Japan, all these places. And because my dad was touring and he was
Mhm.
playing in all these places, and so that part of it was really cool. So I've been around the entertainment industry since before birth, basically,
Wow.
and around music. And so what that meant is that there was always a mic around, there was always a camera around, there was always me
Mhm.
just in front of people. And so I got used to it.
What
Now,
kind of music were you exposed to growing up?
oh my gosh,
What's
everything.
everything?
Primarily R&B, soul, funk. Um, obviously that transitions into hip hop. But yeah, my grandfather, he was actually a very well-known guitarist. So much so that there is a guitarist out there now who actually credits him for teaching him everything he knows. And I wish I could pull up something to give his information. But anyhow, so
Well,
I say that
what's the name of your dad? Maybe we can find your grandfather.
my grandfather is Chuck Edwards, and he was definitely one of those people that you're just like, wow, like he would sing and kind of just shut down everything that was kind of going on around him. And so I say all that to say, like, you know, when you're around all that, it seeps into you, you know what I mean? And so music is such an important part of my daily life. Like I could be having like a terrible day, and he's right there on the second row. Actually, he's on all of the rows.
Can I click on this one? Ooh la la la.
Yeah, that's actually my grandfather and my grandma in that one. That's
Are you
and so you know, I could be having like the worst day or just not really excited or about, you know, motivated, and music really just can change everything. And so that's part of the reason why music is such a huge part of my you know, daily life. And so throughout the years, my dad and my uncles would try to get me to sing, and I would be shy about that part of it because I knew, you know, I could hold a note.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be on.
You were in the presence of grandpa and your dad.
I was like, I'm gonna just be back here harmonizing, but they would always try to get me to sing at their shows, and so I would kind of shy away. And so that's when I kind of transitioned into finding my voice as like the announcer, the MC, the person that could like hype up the crowd. And so that's where that all came from. I sing, but I just don't do it in public.
Were you announcing like your family shows, or what was your first exposure to like announcing? Because I know from your bio, like you said, like you and your sister would play, and you know, imagine
my cousins and my cousin, we call her the documentary. Like she was like the queen of documentary back in the day. Just imagine having a cousin at like growing up, 5, 7, 9 years old, whatever, and you got this one cousin that's constantly like she got like a camcorder, and that thing was everywhere. So we've got video footage of just silliness, right? And so what we figured out,
she invented the selfies, probably, for all we know.
She actually should have been on MTV True Life, because she was doing documentaries like at such a young age. Like from first, like I said, first it started with the tape recorder, then she graduated and got a camera, you know what I mean? So it was a trip. Yeah. So we figured out a way to like be on the tape deck and play music and then record ourselves and like make it sound like we were doing an actual radio show. And we would take requests, and, you know, we would all act and like pretend to be the caller, and, you know, just fun. And then so once I got to college, you know, coming in as a freshman, you go to all these different or at least I did, because I was the nerd that was like, I want to be in every like club, or, you know, I want to meet as many people, right? And so one of the clubs was that I had gone to, I got a flyer, and they were like, oh, we have a radio station on campus. And I was like, for real? And the thing that sold me on it was that they said, if you join after a certain amount of time, we'll give you the opportunity to announce the sports games. And then if you do that, then you get to travel with the team. And I was like, what? I get to travel?
Wait, what was the name of the club? Was it the radio? What was the club?
It was just CalX. It was the radio station CalX. And so that was the radio station club. But I was like, oh my God, I get to travel. And one of the stops is Hawaii. I want to do that. And mind you, I probably would have been the worst sports announcer back then, because I watched sports, but I wasn't like, you know, I probably would have been calling wrong calls left and right. So anyhow, I went in with the mindset of, I want to be a sports announcer and I want to travel with the team. But what they said was, well, you have to do news first. And so I did news, and I actually loved it. It was a live newsroom at a college, of course. So you'd come in, you'd have to research all your stories. You'd have like a big whiteboard, like it's everything you saw growing up in the movies. And you're like, oh my God, like we're breaking news, like, you know, and we're a college radio station, right? And so you know, it was really like what's the word, rigid news, like serious news,
right?
And then because all of us wanted to have, you know, fun, and we were like all personalities and stuff, and so we would cut away from that, and we would do silly stuff like horoscope, but then like we have different characters and things like that. So it was fun. And
what is the I don't know news coverage that you're most proud of or that stood out the most for you during your Cal years?
I mean, I would cover everything from like international to national news, and then obviously like stuff that was happening on campus.
Mm-hmm.
But I will never forget that this one story that I did. So there was a couple, and it was in the Midwest somewhere, and they decided that they were going to have a date in the fields.
Okay.
And so, right. And so they ended up having sex in the field and fell asleep. And awoke to a tractor coming and literally almost slicing them, essentially. One of those tractors that's like grinds.
Yeah.
And so the whole story is that they, they're in the middle of this field, but bucket naked.
Oh, God, ran over.
Yeah. And actually, I think one of them did actually get injured in this story, but it was just like, stuff like that. I was like, what am I, we're covering all kinds of stuff. Right. And so that part of it was fun.
I don't think I'm married, first of all, because then that would be one hell of a story. Otherwise, you probably they won't tell that story anymore.
Yeah, I don't think that relationship lasted. We're meant to be. We survived the tractor
butt naked.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, like I said, it was. And then we had stuff on campus that was happening because Cal is a very progressive campus, and we're constantly standing up for things and fighting for various causes. And so we were covering a lot of that stuff too. And then actually back then I was still dancing, so I did hip-hop dance back then. So between dancing, being on the radio, and then classes, like I was
Did the social justice aspect from Cal, was that something new to you, or was that something that you were surrounded by because of San Francisco Bay or family?
Yeah, so social justice has always kind of just been a part of my fabric. Coming from a diverse, multicultural household, like it was always kind of weaved into me. But really, I started doing it on my own in high school because, like I said, I grew up in San Francisco, which is a pretty culturally diverse city. And to go from that to high school, where it was predominantly white, very segregated, which to me was like culture shock in the opposite, right? Because I came into this campus, already being multicultural, and then to walk in and be like, okay, well, my Black friends are over here, my Latino friends are over here, like my Filipino friends are over here. Why don't y'all all kick it? Like, what's really going on?
Right.
And that really stood out to me. And so my cousin and I actually founded a Black student union because there hadn't been one on campus. And then we also started working with the Latinos Unidos Club, and then the API Club, the Asian Pacific Islanders Club, to really get people active. And then we created a multicultural day. We created a multicultural fundraiser, which was like all of us bringing like all of our traditional foods and selling them, and then using that money to like push into other events and things like that. And so, because I mean, really,
where did you go for high school?
What'd you say?
What high school, or where did you go?
I went to high school at Concord High. And so when I moved, like I said, when I moved out there in the late 90s, there were still kids coming to school with Confederate t-shirts. And that's not cool. Yeah. And so when I, encountered that, I was like, that can't just be okay. Like, we have to educate folks and let them know. Because really, at that age, like you're not necessarily in a place of hate. You're more so in a place of like miseducation, ignorance, and just following what you're seeing around. And so if you take the time to educate folks, then they can make the decision for themselves to really not let that hate seep into their heart, and become a more cultured person, and a more basically.
Did you travel a lot when elementary, middle, high school years? I know you
I mean,
did when you were like a baby. You said you traveled
yeah,
with your family, your dad,
yeah.
especially because he performed. But what about in between?
I mean, we traveled. I mean, we had family vacations.
Mhm.
I'm always thankful because my dad, while he was a musician, he was also an accountant. And so he actually was an accountant for a cruise line. And so we would go on cruises to Hawaii every year. And that was like our vacation. And so I was traveling in that sense.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate and thankful to just be exposed to culture, you know, through my family and through
Yeah.
the traveling that we did do.
Okay. I was just, I'm just curious to know kind of, what the world was like for you in like high school. Like, what was your understanding of the world? Because, like you said, a lot of the, your peers, some of them have been exposed and have this wider sense of what culture is, what, what identity is. But I
Yeah.
wanted to know from you. I have this photo. Is this from high school too?
Uh-oh.
Uh oh. Uh oh. Or
Yeah.
what year is that?
First off, whoever took that picture caught me in like a mid blink. This was me probably. I think I was going to like a homecoming dance. This was freshman year.
Uh-huh.
And as you can tell, I probably just wanted to wear that dress, and my mom forced me to put that jacket on, which was hers, because you could tell by them shoulder pads.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wasn't no 13-year-old going to the store buying. So that's my mom's jacket. But yeah, I was getting ready to go to my first, I think it was like homecoming or something like that. And yeah, it's crazy when you look back, because you're just like, all these, like you said, you're newly married, which again, congratulations on that.
Gracias.
As you start to like get into your marriage years and you're an adult now, you're trying to be a grown up, back to these memories, and you're like, woo, that was some time ago. Sheesh. And like I said, and actually I brought up a funny story earlier, since we're talking about dances right now.
Yeah.
Halloween is right around the corner. I don't know if you remember the high school Macketeer.
Of course.
Yeah, so
Mac of the Arts.
Yeah, so one of my homegirls went to Mac, and then we brought my cousin who went to Lowell, and we were all going to meet for this dance. This is one of our first dances, at least my first dance at Macketeer, right? Because I'd gone to a bunch of them, and it was Halloween. And so I thought, hello, it's Halloween. Throw on your costume. You're supposed to look your best when you show up.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, the embarrassment that I felt for like a hot second, because I pulled up, jumped out of the car speeds away, and I look and I'm like, oh, wow, ain't nobody got a costume.
They try to look cute.
It was a full-on costume. That thing was a full dress. I was a Spider Queen. It had a full dress. It had a cape. It had one of those like the funnel type collars that went up like this. And I thought to myself for that split second, I said, I could sit here and be embarrassed and not enjoy myself, or I could rock the heck out of this and have a good time. And guess what? I had a great time.
Yeah.
So it's really just about your perspective, and just,
Did you win the Halloween costume contest?
Now, it wasn't no contest, because wasn't nobody else dressed. And if they did have a contest, if I didn't win, it was about to be problems. But yeah, it was a little difficult to dance, but you make it work. I was like, can I set my cape down here? Is it cool?
Oh my Lord. Okay, so the entertainment business was not new to you. You go into Cal, knowing that you wanted to go into radio through this program or club. Yeah. And then how did you slowly meander yourself into KMEL?
Yeah. So, being from the Bay Area, we all listen to Bay Area radio, and we grew up with a lot of the Bay Area legends. And so I was like, okay, here's where I want to work. And so what do? I research and I try to figure out who to contact, who do I get in touch with. And so I found the KMEL morning show, who at that time was Chewy Gomez. I found his producer's contact information.
Shout out to Chewy Gomez.
What'd you say?
Oh, shout out to Chewy Gomez.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Chew. But yeah, so I was like, let me just email his producer and see what happens. And the only way you get things is by going after them, right? And so I literally emailed this dude and was like, hey, I'm a college student. I am currently doing college radio. I would love to be in commercial radio. How do I get started? What do I do? And he actually emailed me back. And so and he's actually a friend of mine to this day. And he was like, hey, if you can be here at 6 a.m, come on down and we'll interview. And I was like, can I be there at 6? Yes, I could be there at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And with morning radio, it's really it's with most stuff, it's really the showing up. And when you show up, things are going to happen for you, right? And so morning radio, being there at 6 a.m. and coming every day is really what makes the difference. And so I came and I showed up, and it worked out perfectly for me because I could do radio in the morning and then still, because college classes normally don't start till like 10 or 11, right? So I would get up at 4, go do the radio show, have like an hour to like commute and get food or whatever, and then go to my classes and then do homework. And so it was like a full schedule.
Where was 106 Cameo located, or is it still in the same place?
We're still in the same place. We're still in downtown San Francisco, right near where the Giants play at. We currently have the brightest building on the block, I like to think, because it's a bright red. We're definitely still in that bright building that you see right there.
Couldn't have been any brighter. Well, that's good.
And since it's the iHeartRadio building, we of course have other radio stations broadcasting from there. Now that we're currently living in this COVID reality, a lot of us are able to work from home, which I'm super thankful for, because I have a 10-month-old. I recently came back from maternity leave, and so it's been as we navigate our way through this pandemic and all that it comes with, we have to find the positives, and we have to find the value in all of this. And so what's been positive for folks like me is, I can be close to my kids and work from home. Mind you,
have a whole radio setup?
I have a mini studio set up. And so I have about a minute and 30-second commute. It's like completely different. It's completely different from before, because I was commuting, anywhere. If there was traffic, it could be anywhere from like an hour to 2.5 hours, right? So this has been like, I'm super thankful for this opportunity to be able to work from home. Now, like I said, it's also a challenge for folks that have kids that are like social distancing or distance learning. Kids are in the same space as you as you're trying to get work done, and you're on a Zoom call and you got a toddler in the back jumping around. You got a toddler spilling your drink everywhere. And so I, thankfully, have been able to create a little bit of separation where I'm like in a different room where there's an actual door. With
like a signage, don't bother mama.
Please don't come over here. But because if my kids are so young that if they see me, they're crying and they want to be near me. And so it's like, and as a mom, it's like heart-wrenching, because you're like, oh, why is my kid crying? And you want to be close to them. And then I also had some health issues coming out of my last pregnancy. So it's been really nice to be able to work from home and heal up. And, like I said, be close to the kids. And mind you, we're living in this new COVID reality, which most people don't get dressed from the waist up. I mean, only get dressed.
You don't know what's going on, and that's all good.
What's going on below the desk? I've had friends that have like jumped on Zoom conference calls, and they're like, I don't think I've put on pants in a month. And I'm like, I didn't need to know that, number one, because you could have just been sitting there only whatever. But it's crazy because everyone's getting used to this whole new life of like being home. And I'm like, I'm like, you have to put a shower on your list of things to do. Like, you have to, because you can really easily just be at the house and like not take a shower for 3 days, and you're the only person.
Let me go back just real quick. So I want to know, what was your first impression of, what were the first words that Chuy Gomez told you? And what was your first impression of this studio KMEL.
I really don't remember what his first words were to me, but I'm sure it was probably something, real smart. I don't want to say smart assy, if that's even a word, but he's always jokes. But the one thing that I remember going into the studio, because when you listen to the radio, you just think, oh, this person, who's talking is in like a dark room. They've got like the ambiance and the setup and everything, and they're like, doing this whole show. And so I coming in, I was like, that's what it's got to be, right? And Chewy is one of those people who like actually like creates the scene in the studio. Like he would burn incense and he would like have the lights a certain way, and so he was from that kind of like old school mentality of like the studio has to be your stage, right? And I do remember coming into the room and being like, oh, okay, it's kind of, this is it. Like, is there more? Is this it's really just like a little, it's a board. You got your mic, and that's about it. I'm trying to think. The one thing that I do remember is on my very first day, I came up to the building and I was like, that's JT the Bigger Figure. And so the Bigger Figure was he was coming there for an interview. And so both he and I were at the door, and I was like, I don't know why you're waiting. You're JT the Bigger Figure. Like they should, And so it was really just the security wasn't there to let us in. And so he let us both in. And so I got to ride the elevator with him and ask him questions and stuff like that. So my mind already was like, oh, I'm just going to be meeting people left to right. Like this is just how it's going to be. And so that was a really cool part about it.
And that's a big, that's maybe a big, well, that's a part of it, but what's the other side? What's your day-to-day prepping, creating, imagining, and delivering? What does that look like?
It's all of that. And I've been doing it for so long now that it's pretty rapid. But really, once you kind of get into like a rhythm, it's really just living your life and soaking up everything that's going on around you and then delivering it, right? Because one thing I like to think about is like we're regular people just like everyone else, right? And we just happen to be talking about it and bringing people together through music, through current events, and trying to keep people informed and or just entertained, right? And so part of it is, I watch the news like everyone does. I watch movies, I watch television. I try to be doing the same things that my audience is going to be doing, and listening to the music and just thinking about how I feel about certain things. And so a lot of it is just like living life. And then there's a lot of prep, you do have to read through a lot of stuff. And that part of it gets kind of can be tedious, and it can also be emotional too, because, we might only bring you one topic or one story or one, but I might have had to read 10, 15, 20 stories, and how many of those are negative? How many of those have to do with crime or murder or death, just in general? And so you're kind of like emotionally up and down a lot. And so you just have to know how to navigate that. And it like I said, it's definitely, I've been like talking to a listener about something really sad and then have to jump on the radio and sound upbeat within like a second. And so you have to be able to turn it on and off. And so, now that we're in this pandemic space, a lot of people are talking about the importance of mental health. And this is a conversation that I've been having with folks for years, because as people of color, and I'm happy to say that now there's not such a huge stigma around it as it had been, but we really do need to seek mental health, whether it's mental health therapy, mental health, positive practices, things to do on a daily basis to keep yourself just kind of, in a productive space.
Is this a message that now you can also promote on the radio since it's less of a stigma? I'm wondering.
I have been promoting this message on air outside of like, you might not know it's me doing it, because another part of my job, I am on air, but another part of my job is behind the scenes, and it's community engagement. And that part of it is being the community engagement director for iHeart in San Francisco. And so that means like working with all of our radio stations on anything kind of nonprofit related, anything kind of, charitable, kind of give back. I work with, all of our stations. This right here is mostly like stuff that I do with KMEL, going out to events, speaking to
this is youth radio, I think.
Yeah. So I also back when we were in studio and able to be around people, I would actually host career days and tours. And so different organizations that have like, a career exploration piece, or, they're just trying to show kids what's out there. I would invite them to come in and visit our studios and, check out our space and understand what we do on a day-to-day basis. So, that side of it, that's the other part of it. Cause you asked like, what does my day-to-day look like? That part of it is like talking to nonprofit organizations, talking to community leaders, talking, to our honor staff, and really understanding like what are the issues facing our community and how we can bring them to our airwaves to promote, uplifting things. And so that might be, working with you and talking about Latino Task Force and the amazing work that you're doing in the community to,
some carnival.
Hold on. Or it could be Carnival, bringing arts and culture and all of that to the community, and how our radio stations can help turn on the mic and promote that messaging. So that part of it's really cool because, I get to work with organizations that are doing all this great work in the community and giving back, and it's part of my job. The part of it that can be taxing is, this well, working with communities that are underserved and don't necessarily have the resources can be challenging, and it can be emotionally draining as well. But you have to look at the value that you're providing to the community and that your organization is providing to the community, and in that kind of get that that inner fulfillment, right?
Do you feel like our bodies hold weight in spaces, right? This is an industry that, is it safe to say it's mainly male driven, or has it changed?
It's slowly changing, but yeah, it is male driven.
And how do you see yourself in that? Because, you're a woman of color, and you show up and you talk about your experience in this industry and how you've succeeded for over a decade. What does that feel like for you to give back, and for a lot of people identify with you?
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I'm happy to be in this position. But it's like I said, it has its challenges. It has its days where I'm like, okay, we got to do this again. We have to have this conversation again. We have to have this, but we do have to have these conversations again. We do have to have events like this Girls Festival with Worldwide Women, which is an amazing organization that highlights all these organizations that are doing great things for girls and women and putting them in spaces where they weren't normally seen. And
how are you involved?
So with Worldwide Women and Girls Festival, I did a lot of background work in the sense of like, helping them get their messaging out, promote the event, and just let young ladies know that it was happening, because we have some really cool events that happen. And a lot of times it's like, maybe you just didn't see the post about it or you didn't hear about it. And so that's what's really cool, is that we can use our radio stations to promote, hey, we have this festival coming up. And so I would help on the promotion and the marketing side. And then more recently, I was able, this last one fell on a time when I could go, and I actually was able to go, and the festival was really cool. And I'm not saying this just from like a female perspective. Like, I think guys should come out too and check it out, because they were doing everything from showing young girls how to change a tire to showing them how to create like a marketing campaign. Wow. I hosted a panel with a reporter from ABC 7. I also had a makeup artist on my panel, and she's done makeup for like major films out there. Most recently, I don't know if you saw The Irishman with Robert De Niro, and so she did like a lot of the makeup and kind of crafting that goes on with the imaging and the scenes. And so just showing folks that, like, you know, as a woman, you can be in this industry. And the really cool thing about it is, and there's actually the panel. I don't know if you know, but Lucasfilms is actually in San Francisco.
Yep.
And so, you know, these are major films or projects that are coming out of San Francisco. Deborah was actually, she actually used to dance back in the day, like with Paula Abdul. And so she actually had been in the industry for many years. And so she came to the mindset, or realized, and she actually battled with it too, that there was this negative body imagery thing going on with dancers and folks in the entertainment industry. Created her organization. But I mean, you know, you have this space of like all these really cool things that the girls get to try out for the day, and they meet really amazing women that are doing like really out of this world stuff, and it's just a cool event to be a part of. And the really cool part about it for me for this year or last year that I was able to go is I was actually pregnant at the time, and I was pregnant with my daughter, and so it was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting her, you know, in the womb. You know, really understanding that she's got to come in and blow it up and become the next generation of women to do really great things.
Where was it located? Where was the event taking place? Where did the event take place?
It was actually at Palace of Fine Arts in the city. Actually, it was in the old Exploratorium building. I take that back. And so it's a pretty big space. If you've ever been to the old Exploratorium, and it was just, like I said, mind-blowing, pretty cool event to be a part of.
Was that the same as this event?
That is, yeah, that's that event right there. And so that little girl is standing in, and if she wasn't standing there, you could totally see my belly bump. And ABC7 was there, and so they were giving girls the opportunity to do like a mock weather report. And so I was like, can I do a mock weather report? And so I went up and I did a mock weather report. And I don't know if you've ever done anything on a green screen, because it's literally like you're trying to point to stuff and like look at the screen at the same time. And so it was pretty cool. And it was nice to see all these young women and young ladies out there trying it and trying, you know, getting hands-on experiences with all these different careers.
Let's bring ourselves back to this world.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I know they intermingle. And, you know, this is like I would be fainted in the back of this photo if I was in that space.
You see that there's like a little block. Do you see that? That's you on the, no, I'm kidding.
That's my shoe right over there, fainted, like, oh my God, it's too much. Can you tell me about this photo and the Bay Area legends, including yourself?
Yeah. So, you know, being that we're doing Bay Area radio in the Bay Area, we oftentimes have, you know, these legends and these ambassadors and these icons stop through. And I remember, you know, back in my intern days being in the studio, and E40, you know, back when we used to have what we call like jingles. You remember jingles? Like you'd hear like a 30 seconds to like a minute of a rapper, you know, introducing a show or introducing an element on the show. And so I remember being there one day, and E40 was in the studio, and they were like, oh, he's going to be there for a minute. And we're like, what? He's working on his jingles. And so he was there probably for a few hours. And, you know, E40, when he goes around, he used to carry a bottle of Carlo Rossi everywhere he went, and he would have his Rossi in the studio, and he was there, and he was creating all these jingles for all the jocks. And I was like, I can't wait to the day when I get to be a part of a show and I get to have these rappers or these artists put me in their jingles. And so this was kind of like the fruition of that, because I was part of the morning show at this point. Prior to that, I was producing, and so I was a part of the show, but I was more on the background, behind the scenes. And so here, I was actually a voice on the show. I was one of the co-hosts, and at this point, I think this is when they had a project come out together, and so they both decided they were going to come into the studio and do an interview to promote the drop of the project. And for whatever reason that day, Miss Kimmy would always bring in like little, like, we would just do silly stuff for each other, like little gifts or whatever. And she had found single serving Spam. And so it literally came, and there's a picture out there floating somewhere of like this single serving Spam.
Okay.
And I had it next to my computer as we were doing the interviews. And so I took a separate picture with Too Short, and we're holding up the Spam because it was like, I'm half Filipino, and Spam is like a huge, it's a pretty big breakfast item. And so I couldn't believe that she had found a single. And first of all, I was like, who wants a single serving anyway? More than one slice, but it was cute.
So people will recognize these two faces, maybe Chewy Gomez. Who else is?
We got, of course, Chewy Gomez pointing in the front, E40 Too Short. Behind me is DJ Mind Motion. He definitely has put like a stamp on mixing, and sometimes I'll hear different sound effects that people use in their mixes, and I'm like, you got that from Mind Motion, quit playing. And so he's definitely a force to be reckoned with when it comes to mixing and DJing, and Chewy as well. Chewy's been DJing for many, many moons. And then of course one of my favorite people in the world, Miss Kimmy, to my, on the side there, one of our hosts as well. And it was such an honor to sit with these people every morning, be one of the first people you probably see in the morning, which, by the way, most people are not awake yet. And we have to be there like 5:30 in the morning. And so to wake up with these people for how many years we did it was such an honor. And we had our days where we'd get on each other's nerves, and but for the most part, it was such a family atmosphere. And I was very, very saddened when it all came to an end, because for me, it was like, I got to do radio, which is one of the things I love, and a job at that with my friends, you know what I mean? People who I really, have friendships with, and people who I look up to and put in a position of like mentorship. Right. And so that to me was really awesome. And then to be able to do it, in my home, like most people have to leave. Most people have to go to different markets to launch their radio career. San Francisco is actually the 4th largest market in the nation.
Didn't know that.
Do it at home and not have to go to a really small city, rural city that I've never been to before, and then climb my way up. I was able to do it here and then climb my way up that way. So that
makes it a large market?
Population size, and also just our spending, especially like with the tech boom, we have more of a share here, but it's basically population size.
Got it. I'm gonna show people. Oh, sorry, you were saying?
I was gonna say ahead of us is only New York, LA, and Chicago. So we're definitely to be reckoned.
Speaking of a force to be reckoned, I just want to show you off a little bit with, just some photos. People know, where you've been.
Okay. If you can't tell right there, we're close to the same height. I just want to put that out there.
Ouch, Kevin.
No, not at all, because he is a small dude in height, but he was a big, big person in personality and heart. And so that I had to point that out.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I have to talk about this interview right here, because I'm such a dance hall head. Like, I was so excited to have Sean Paul in studio, and I was like, oh my God, he's so awesome. I had, I loved Sean Paul. I still do. And so he actually recorded my voicemail. And so that was my voicemail for years. And I don't know if you know, but when you lose your phone, just kind of lose stuff sometimes. And so I'm still trying to figure out if I can somehow recoup that, but he did. So for years I had Sean Paul like leave a message, it's pretty dope.
Can you imitate him?
I'm not even gonna try, because that was rude. No, but the funny part about that interview was that he had an assistant with him, and the assistant was like, oh, we have some promo items that we want to give you guys, to promote the album. Rodrigo, I was like, what do I do with this? He had a Sean Paul pair. It was a thong. But the thong part that's supposed to go in your booty crack was like it was like a silver. I don't even know. It was not cloth, is what I'm trying to say. Is this going in? Because it's not going in my shampoo. I love you to death. But whoever chose the silver encrusted fake diamonds to go in the butt part, I was like, yeah, this is going on a wall somewhere. But that was a trip. That was definitely.
Tell me you framed it somewhere.
I have it somewhere. It was not worn.
It's still sparkly clean. There's this one.
Gosh. This one was a summer jam. This one was, there was a certain level of I don't want to say embarrassment, but just a certain level of I had to yeah. So I had a huge crush on Drake. This is even prior to him becoming a rapper. I was watching him on Degrassi back in the day. And so yeah. So they were like, oh, he's coming, he's gonna do an interview. And they all knew that I had a huge crush on him. And so I was like, I'm not gonna be in the room because I'm gonna be blushing. I should probably be somewhere else. And so during the interview, I let the interview start, and then I kind of crept in quietly and I was watching in the back. And I was like, cool, no one knows I'm here. Cool. And somehow, I don't know if it was Sana or Chewy, somebody locked eyes with me, and I was like, no. And they were like, hey, Drake, one of our staff members has a really huge crush on you. How about we bring her up here? And I was like, no. So they brought me up on stage, and Drake then starts coming closer to me. He's hugging me. He's like staring me in the eyes. And I'm like, this is awesome. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing because, I have, at that time he was my boyfriend. He's my now husband. But I was like, this is so embarrassing because he sees me here blushing. Like, you know what I mean? And
you had to interview him, or what did you do?
They were doing an interview. They just wanted to get me up there to embarrass me. So I was like, please stop looking at me. He was like trying to snuggle up to me and like, just trying to make me more nervous. And so like 2 weeks after that, the promo that was running on the radio was make sure to tune in to see how embarrassed Lady Ray, or see what happened when Lady Ray met Drake. And my boyfriend or my husband now had to deal with that for 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm so sorry. He was just a nice person.
One of my favorite artists all around.
Jada. Very cool.
I've seen him a few times in the Bay. We protested with him down Mission Street.
Yeah.
He's just a gentleman. He's like he'll be like your sidekick. You're Lady Ray, he's the gentleman, Jadena.
Yeah, he's such a cool dude. Like he's from here. Grown as well, and
arch nemesis Stanford. Okay.
Yeah, then there's that, but no, he's definitely he's such a gentleman. Like, and what was interesting, and the reason I'm in his dressing room is because around that time I had embarked on this like health challenge to lose like a huge amount of weight, which I'm actually doing right now to get off the 2 babies that I birthed. But I had embarked on this health challenge because, coming from being a woman of color, high blood pressure, diabetes, all of that runs rampant in our communities. And so I was like, I gotta get this weight off. And so I, after this point, had lost about 70 pounds. But at this point where the pictures are, I think I was down probably about 25, almost 30 pounds. And the reason I'm in his dressing room is because I walked by going to the stage to introduce somebody, and I look and I'm like, what are they doing? So he and the gentleman below were doing like a full on, it was almost like an African
like ritual
circle. Like they were just like pounding on their chest. They both of them had their shirts off, sweaty, but this was their ritual to get ready to go on stage. And so when I walked by, I was like, I need to be a part of that. Like how? And so I came back and I was like, oh my God, I saw you guys. And they were like, oh, you saw that? They were so embarrassed. And I was like, what were y'all doing? Like, I need to be a part of whatever haka that was. Like, I want to be, because I mean, they were like full on hitting their chest. And I was like, and I was telling them, I had just started this challenge. And so they were just, we basically were just geeking out in the room. And I was just appreciative that they let me come in and hang out. And like I said, both of them, gentlemen to the fullest.
Of course.
Oh gosh. Mr.
Trey.
We've known Trey Songz since he was the scrawny little kid with the braids. And so when he first came out, I was still doing traffic for Chewy, and I'm on the mic and I'm delivering my traffic report. And when I do traffic, I go really fast because I only have a small amount of time.
I heard you Saturday.
All I remember is Trey Songz was in my ear, whispering and like sticking his tongue out. He was like blah 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 blah, but you couldn't hear him on the air. And so to this day, like every time I see him, I'm like, you remember that time when you tried to throw me off when I was doing traffic? And so he's like I said, he's one of those folks that I'm thankful to be a part of, if anything, if any way, helping to get his music out there, because he is a really cool dude, a really genuine dude, and he deserves all the success that comes to him.
So I want to do 2 exercises before we say adios for now.
Yeah.
I want to go through a list of 5, 7, maybe 10 artists, and just some words that stand out to you when you think of them, or maybe when you met them or interviewed them. You know what I mean? So, and these are folks that I know you've crossed paths, and if there's anyone I miss and you just want to shout out, for sure. So, Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh my gosh. This story is, I just have to, I don't know if you want me to tell a word or a story, because
go for it. I think this deserves the story and the word.
So I had the opportunity during my 20s, like I said, when I was more behind the scenes, I got to travel a lot and cover a lot of different premieres and things like that for the radio station. So one of them was to cover, Jada Pinkett had this show where she was playing a doctor, and they flew us out to LA and they said, hey, we want you to interview Jada Pinkett and we want you to promote the show. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there. So I go, and my now husband went with me, and we walk into this room, and they would do they still do these junkets typically at hotels. And so they had set up this hotel ballroom to have like different radio stations sections. And so they had these big, huge red velvet curtains around them so that each radio station would have their own like mini studio almost, right? And so I go into this room and I'm like, okay, I'm here to interview Jada Pinkett, right? That's who I'm prepared to meet and interview. And I walk in and I'm like, I look at my husband, I'm like, that is Will Smith.
I mean, weird.
Yeah, so Jada Pinkett and Will Smith were just standing there in this room waiting for us to interview. And so luckily I had those red velvet curtains to go behind, because I went and geeked out. Because I was like, oh my God, like he won the first hip hop Grammy. Like he is like hip hop. He's right there. And he, like I said, they were both super nice, super down to earth. And it was just a great opportunity to meet them both.
So a word or 2 that Jada Pinkett Smith that describes her for you.
I would say, I always would say, just strong. She's just always stood out to me as a very strong individual. Just, she just exudes strength to me.
Will Smith.
There's so many words that come to mind for him, but I would have to say, I don't know, for whatever reason, humanitarian or just human just comes out. He's just himself, and he's just a good human being, and a fun human being. Like he's like, he sat there, he stood there and joked with us and chatted with us and Jada for a few minutes. So my husband and I have a picture with him, and it was just like, you're just like how you and I were in a conversation, just joking around, and it was Will Smith. It was dope.
Alicia Keys. Words, concepts.
I would just say beautiful. She's just a beautiful person. All around. Super nice.
Back to Jadena, the gentleman.
Gentleman. I would just say Royal. Royal comes to mind.
That's a good one. I've seen his performances. J. Cole.
That interview, I've said it before. I still apologize. I didn't even do anything.
I don't know. Okay.
But he walked out of our interview because my coach at the time asked him a very inappropriate question about his manlyhood, and that he shouldn't have done that. That was too far. But anyhow, I would say for J. Cole, so many words come to mind, but I would just say lyricist.
T.I.
T.I., I would say educator. He's constantly educating.
Yeah. Tyrese.
I would probably just say vocalist. I will never ever be able to scrub the memory of him doing the Coca-Cola commercials from my brain ever.
What about Smokey Robinson?
I would say mesmerizing. His eyes are mesmerizing.
Miguel?
Family. I would say family. He grew up with my family, and so we kind of had that connection, and he's just always been a super down to earth person.
And the last two, so too short.
I would say innovator, because he took selling out of the trunk to a whole new level.
And last but not least, you forward it.
Uncle Earl. I would say one word that comes to mind when I think of him would be verbalist. That guy he's created some words that people all over the world use and don't even realize that they haven't given credit to Uncle Earl.
That's funny. And I always ask these questions. What's your favorite street in the Bay?
My favorite street in the that's
or
a big
streets.
I'm gonna say San Francisco streets, because there's just so many streets. Okay, if we're saying Bay Area, then Telegraph, of course, in Berkeley. In San Francisco, I would have to say Van Ness, because it goes like you can go all the way to the water, and then all the way and a lot of the streets do that, but Van Ness has like ending points that I love. And yeah, I'd say those two are probably my two favorites.
So we just showed Telegraph Street, Berkeley, and that's because it crosses.
That's just because I'm a Cal. Yeah, I'm a bear to the heart, and Telegraph is just if you've never walked Telegraph, you need to make that happen. Like you're gonna see everything.
Yeah. What about restaurants?
Restaurants, there's so many restaurants, and
I know.
I am a self-proclaimed foodie, but if I had to choose, I would say Sunflower in Potrero. If you like Vietnamese food, you must go there. If you like, and I'm probably gonna stay on the Asian side of things for a moment. If you like Thai food, Champa Garden in Oakland.
Oh yes, I love Champa.
Oh my god! And so Champa,
Oakland or San Francisco?
I prefer Oakland because it was their first location. But
I lived a block away from there.
Did you really?
Yep.
You know, a lot of people don't know. It's such a hidden gem because it literally goes like house, Champa, house. But so good. I actually, we went there a couple weeks ago, and I was like, we got to get out the house. And so we got our food, and we just parked by the lake and ate. And it was like old school, feeling like you're in high school again or college. But Champa is so good, so good.
Shout out to Champa.
If I'm going to get my burrito spot, I'm probably gonna hit up. This is always the age-old question.
I'm gonna be judging you based on your answer.
I mean, because it's like, are you an El Farolito person, or are you La Mission? Like, yeah. I'm always kind of. I was El Farolito for many moons. So I might have to stick with El Farolito, but there's so much good stuff right there and they're like right across the street from each other. Like you can't like you literally have if you and your homie don't like the same spot, you're like yelling at each other from across the street. What's up?
You
Is
gotta
your boy-
compromise. Like, all right, today's gonna be me, tomorrow will be you.
Yeah. What's your favorite taqueria?
You know, it's been Guadalajara and the Excelsior.
Okay.
Yeah, check that one out.
I see you.
It's kind of like another one of those gems that people haven't really explored too much.
Yeah.
You gotta try it out. And your favorite park before we wrap up?
Man, I'm gonna go with the age-old Golden Gate Park because there's just so much in Golden Gate Park. And I have so many memories there growing up, you know, whether it's going on the little pond there and, you know, pedaling your own little boat, or if it's, you know, riding around your bike through the park. There's museums there. I've done AIDS walk there. I've done various different community events there, and it's just a beautiful park in general, and there's something for everybody in that park, whether you got little kids, big kids, or you are a big kid.
I act like a little kid.
all of it is there.
Oh my God, this has been great, Lady Ray. Thank you. Really, thank you for just taking the time. You know, I know you're busy, you have fam, we're all in COVID, but this has been a gem. It's really been a dream come true. When I thought about Real City Ambassadors, your name came to mind ASAP. So
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I like I said, when you asked me to do this, I was like, what? I don't know if I'm an ambassador, but I'll take it. I will take it. Thank you.
You are an ambassador. Thank you so much. All right, people.
Congratulations on the 1 year. You got a ways to go. You got
thank you. Yeah.
The part. You got a little more to go though.
I know we do. And congratulations to you too for your children, you know, and your marriage and everything. So you know, we're all following and we're all rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll call it hasta luego.
Nos vemos.
Peace.